Back here in HQ Spotlight, it's the offseason, which means we like to have conversations about ceilings, expectations, players that are in a prove-it year, all those sorts of things. And Anthony Richardson comes up a lot for people in those prove-it conversations. In 2 years, AR has suited up for 15 games. Of course, we cannot forget when he checked himself out of the game, completing barely 50% of his throws. Also, reason for some pause. And now we have to remember that in Indianapolis, Daniel Jones is also in that QB room. So we're wondering what's the deal with the quarterback situation in Indy. So let's welcome back Mac and John Breech to discuss here as we get a season outlook for the Colts. And it's kind of confusing. We know AR is dealing with an injury. We're hearing maybe he's not going to be ready for training camp. Maybe he is. And then we're hearing from ownership, hey, we drafted Anthony for a reason. We believe in him. That's what principal owner Carly Gordon is saying. But Daniel Jones is there. So Mac, do you believe that there is a quarterback battle in Indianapolis?
Well, if Anthony Richardson could stay healthy, right, I think it would be a legit quarterback competition. But as we see currently, he's not healthy. So with that being said, that job will probably go to the more healthier, dependable guy, who is Daniel Jones. Because with AR, I don't know his health status as they get ready for training camp. I'm just talking about what we know coming throughout mini camps and, of course, OTAs. He wasn't healthy. They scaled him out of the drills, wasn't doing anything. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, John, the same thing is a concern, or he is, sitting out practices as they get ready for training camp. Guess what? Daniel Jones will get all the reps. Daniel Jones is an experienced quarterback. Granted, it didn't work out well with him with the Giants, but he's played a lot of football in the National Football League. He has more experience than Anthony Richardson. So if he's getting the bulk load of the reps, it's safe to say Daniel Jones will go into week 1 as the starting quarterback.
Yeah, BMAC hit the nail on the head here. If you're going to have a competition, that involves 2 people. And right now, there is only one person involved. That is Daniel Jones. And that's because Anthony Richardson is dealing with this shoulder injury that he had it during OTAs and caused him to miss mandatory minicamp. And if you look at Anthony Richardson, he really has 3 things that as a head coach you don't really want to see in your quarterback. He hasn't been able to stay healthy. He hasn't been very accurate. He's completed barely 50% of his passes in his career. And he turns the ball over. And so those are 3 things that are tough to deal with. And then you look at Daniel Jones. I really feel like Daniel Jones was the biggest addition the Colts made this offseason. I think that he is an upgrade over Anthony Richardson. He has some starting quarterback experience. He stays healthy. And I really think Shane Steichen can take advantage of Daniel Jones's skill set. If you look at Daniel Jones's best year in the NFL, that came back in 2022. It was his first season with Bryan, led the Giants to the playoffs. And a big reason that happened, he had Saquon Barkley in the backfield, who was kind of the feature guy. Then Daniel Jones was just there to run around when he needed to. Well, he rushed for over 700 yards. You could run something similar with Jonathan Taylor back there. So I think this is Daniel Jones' job to lose, especially with Richardson's health issues. So, yes, I think week 1, Daniel Jones is the starter.
So, Breech, I know you said that Daniel Jones, that is your biggest offseason addition. So, Mac, what about you? What do you think those biggest offseason additions were for the Colts?
Well, I have 2, Charvarius Ward and Tyler Warren. Let's start on the defensive side with Ward. When you look at this defensive unit, right, going back to a year ago, they had issues in the secondary. Number 1, they didn't have a CB1. You have Kenny Moore, but Kenny Moore is more known to be their slot guy. He plays that position at a high level. But improving on the outside, the perimeter of your defense was a top priority. And they went out and improved instantly when they brought in Ward. When you're in a division where you're seeing Bryan Thomas Jr. twice a year, Nico Collins twice a year, Calvin Ridley twice a year, you better have a CB1 that can go out and get the job done. Charvarius Ward has shown the ability to do so. I think he will bring that same mentality that he played with in Kansas City with the 49ers to the Colts. And then offensively, when you look at Tyler Warren, I mean, he's one of the more coveted tight ends that was available. And the reason why he's such a big priority for their offense, over the last few years, John, they didn't receive any production from the tight end position at all. That was a missing element, especially in terms of working the seams of the offense. They didn't have any production. Now you bring in a guy that's very, very versatile. You can line him up anywhere on the offense. He will do numbers for you. Not to mention, when you look at this pass catching unit of A.D. Mitchell, Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman Jr., and Tyler Warren. If Daniel Jones is the quarterback, or whoever the quarterback is, they should be smiling from ear to ear when they see those guys in the huddle.
So what about biggest offseason losses? And Breech, I'll come to you first. Your guy, he was my fantasy kicker and really came through for me on multiple occasions.
That's right, Jacqueline. I mean, they let go of a kicker in Matt Gay, who did score a lot of points, and he was very good last season. Look, I will say, he struggled from long range, from beyond 50 yards, but from inside 50, he was literally the best kicker in the NFL last year. He went 28 of 28, perfect 100%. And so now, when you're a team like the Colts, it's a huge risk to get rid of a kicker who is that accurate from inside 50, because you look at what Indianapolis did in 2024. They played in 8 games that were decided by 3 points or less, so essentially by a field goal. Matt Gay went 16 of 18 in those 8 games, so he was a big reason why they fared fairly well in close games. Now you look at what they have coming in. They have Spencer Schrader, who has never attempted a field goal longer than 45 yards in his career, and then they have Maddox Trujillo, who is a rookie who obviously has never kicked in an NFL game. He was strong-legged, hit a 64-yarder at Temple, but struggled from inside 50, which are the kicks you have to make in the NFL. So I think based on how the Colts are built, they could see a lot of close games this season, and they might regret cutting Matt Gay.
Well, for me, I go to center Ryan Kelly. And the reason why he's the biggest loss for me, when you look at going back since being drafted in the first round in 2016, he's commanded the center position. In terms of the stability that he brought with the entire offensive line, he brought that to that unit. Being able to communicate, the transparency on either side was him. Now you move him out of the fold. Remember, it's 2025. This is a man who was the center since 2016. Now, he missed some time last year because of injury, but when he was not in the lineup, you felt it in terms of the continuity, the rhythm, and the chemistry. So not having him in the lineup, we know how important the center is for the entire movement on the offensive line. It could take some time for them to kind of get over that hurdle of not having Ryan Kelly in the uniform, because when he was healthy, he was a stalwart on the offensive line.
All right, guys, so it's year 3 under Shane Steichen. This Colts squad finished 8-9, missed the playoffs last year. They're trying to end this drought of not having a playoff appearance. It has been 4 seasons. You know, they're making a trip to Berlin. They opened the season against Miami. So, B-Mac, kick us off. What's the schedule prediction for Indy?
Well, I see another missed opportunity in the playoffs, Jacqueline. Unfortunately, Colts fans, bear with me, but I got to keep it real. I see 7-10, best case scenario for the Indianapolis Colts, and here's why. Regardless of who the quarterback is, John, do we trust either guy to be able to sustain a high level of play, high enough for them to win the games that they're supposed to and win a few surprises as well? I'm not quite ready to say that. You look at some of the notable games, the first game can be a telling sign for all of us, right? If you win that ball game against Miami, you might be a little more optimistic. But if you lose that ball game, it could be a long, long season. When you look at some of the other notable games, it's that middle part of the schedule for me, John, when you look at Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Kansas City, Jacksonville, Seattle. Those are telling opportunities, you know, based on those teams and the confidence that they have going into this season. And not to mention, you know, in terms of the overall talent that some of these opposing teams might have in favor of the Colts. But I see another missed opportunity. I say best case scenario, John, for me, 7-10.
Yeah, I like it. Except I'm going to go a little bit more optimistic here, B-Mac. I'm going to go 8-9. Look, it's only one game better. Jacqueline mentioned they went 8-9, missed the playoffs last season. Why not 8-9 and miss the playoffs again? I think that's kind of what this team is built for. You look at what Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson, whoever comes in and ends up being the starter, I think the team is talented enough to win in spite of the quarterback. When you look at Jonathan Taylor, when you look at their receiving core that you talked about earlier, so the offense has enough weapons as long as the quarterback can take advantage of them. And then you look at how the schedule sets up. They have 2 games at home to start the season. They're one of only 4 teams in the NFL that opens with 2 straight home games. That puts you in a spot where you're comfortable at home, you can win. And then you also look at their schedule. They only play 1 outdoor game in the first 8 weeks. So you don't have to worry about weather. You don't have to worry about rain. You can make your game plan, thrive indoors. So if they can get off to a hot start with these indoor games, maybe that will propel them to something a little bit better. But right now, I have them at 8-9.
All right, 8-9, 7-10. That is the schedule prediction. BMAC, Breech, we certainly appreciate it as we look ahead to the 2025 season for the Colts. Here are the Sportsline predictions. They have them right around 6 wins, a 10% chance to win the AFC South, and a 14.4% chance to make the playoffs. They have not been to the playoffs in 4 seasons.